A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran.
Sector 1-1, this is Shadow 8 there, about engagement out. Shadow Sector 1.
The attack occurred without a declaration of war. Fighter jets moved swiftly through the darkness, precision missiles striking Iranian military facilities and strategic infrastructure. The targets were clear: command centers, defense installations, and networks suspected of being connected to sensitive military programs. The operation was described as a preventive measure by the United States and Israel, but for Iran, it was a direct act of aggression against national sovereignty. Within hours, decades of tension turned into open confrontation that could no longer be hidden behind diplomacy or shadow warfare. Relations between Iran and the United States have been fractured since the 1979 revolution. When the pro-Western Shah was overthrown and the Islamic Republic was established, Washington lost a key strategic ally in the Middle East. The hostage crisis involving American diplomats deepened the divide. Since then, economic sanctions, political isolation, and covert operations have defined the dynamics between the two nations. Israel is part of this equation because Iran openly opposes its existence and supports groups hostile to Tel Aviv. For Israel, Iran's military ambitions, particularly regarding nuclear capabilities and ballistic missile development, are viewed as an existential threat. For years, the conflict was waged through proxies. Iran supported militias in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. The United States and Israel responded with sanctions, cyber sabotage, and limited strikes against targets deemed dangerous. Both sides were careful not to trigger direct war. This fragile balance endured because all parties understood the consequences of regional war: disruption of global energy routes, political instability, and the potential involvement of other major powers such as Russia and China.
Tensions escalated when intelligence reports indicated that Iran was accelerating its military capabilities. The United States and Israel saw this as a red line that could no longer be tolerated. The narrative presented was prevention before the threat became uncontrollable. The strike was carried out with high-level military coordination, demonstrating that it was not symbolic, but a strategic message. That message was simple: the line had been crossed. Iran responded firmly. The government described the strike as a covert declaration of war. Official rhetoric hardened. The Revolutionary Guard raised its alert status, air defense systems were fully activated, and militia networks affiliated with Tehran prepared themselves. Iran viewed this not only as a military attack, but as an attempt to undermine its regional position. Domestically, public pressure pushed the government to retaliate in order to preserve legitimacy and project strength. The situation became more complex because the Middle East is not an empty space. Gulf states worry about the impact of conflict on their stability. Global markets are sensitive to threats against oil routes such as the Strait of Hormuz. American military calculations must consider the safety of bases and personnel in the region. Every retaliatory decision carries the risk of wider escalation. The initial strike marked a shift in paradigm. Previously, the conflict was asymmetric and distributed. Now the lines were clearer: Iran facing two major military powers directly. Israel saw this moment as an opportunity to significantly weaken Iran's military structure. The United States viewed it as a way to maintain strategic credibility and prevent Iranian dominance in the region. Iran, on the other hand, saw it as a test of national resilience and regional influence. Behind military maneuvers, there is a war of narratives. The United States and Israel emphasize that their actions are defensive and aimed at preserving stability. Iran asserts that it is the victim of aggression and has every right to defend itself. Global media is divided in its analysis, while the international community calls for de-escalation. Yet such calls are difficult to realize once missiles have been launched and casualties begin to mount. Strategically, this conflict is not merely about retaliation, it is about credibility. If Iran does not respond, its regional reputation could collapse and its allies may question its commitment. If it responds too forcefully, the risk of total war increases. The United States and Israel face the same dilemma. Too soft appears weak, too hard opens the door to major escalation. The economic impact was immediate. Oil prices surged as markets feared potential supply disruptions. Global investors shifted assets to safe instruments. Uncertainty increased, and countries dependent on Middle Eastern energy stability began recalculating geopolitical risk. A regional conflict now carried global consequences. Militarily, the next move would shape the region's history. Would this become a series of controlled, limited strikes, or the beginning of prolonged war? Iran possesses indirect strike capabilities through networks of armed allies in multiple countries. The United States has technological and logistical superiority. Israel has experience in precision operations and deep intelligence. This combination creates a highly volatile environment.
What makes the situation dangerous is miscalculation. In high-intensity conflict, one mistaken target identification or one major civilian casualty can trigger an uncontrollable spiral. Each side claims to act rationally, but domestic political pressure and threat perception can drive rapid decisions that narrow diplomatic space. That night of the attack was not merely a military operation. It became a symbol of the collapse of unwritten boundaries that had kept the conflict in the shadows. The world is now witnessing a new chapter in Middle Eastern dynamics, more open, more tense, and more risky. The question hanging in the air is no longer whether tensions will rise, but how far escalation will go before serious efforts are made to stop it. This conflict demonstrates that geopolitical rivalry never truly ends. It waits for momentum. When that momentum arrives, history moves quickly. The strike opened a new phase that will determine the regional balance of power, global economic stability, and the future of international security. This is only the beginning. How Iran responds and how the United States and Israel adjust their strategies will determine whether the region enters a broad war or returns to its old fragile balance.
Several days after the initial strike, Iran retaliated. Not with a single symbolic attack, but with a layered strategy. Medium-range ballistic missiles were launched toward military targets claimed to be linked to American and Israeli interests. Long-range drones were deployed to test enemy air defenses. Regional defense systems were immediately activated. Sirens sounded in several areas. The world realized this was not a brief incident, but an escalating phase. Iran's retaliation was not limited to direct military action. Tehran activated its network of influence.
Armed groups affiliated with it in various countries increased pressure on American and Israeli interests. This is Iran's long-standing doctrine: avoid full frontal war while maximizing pressure through dispersed fronts. This strategy creates uncertainty and expands the conflict space without deploying full conventional strength. The United States responded by reinforcing the defense of its military bases in the region. Aircraft carriers were positioned closer. Additional missile defense systems were deployed. The message was clear: any further escalation would be met in kind. Israel also intensified intelligence operations and precision strikes against targets considered to be Iranian logistical or command centers outside its territory. This pattern formed a rapidly accelerating cycle of action and reaction. What makes this phase dangerous is the widening conflict space. If previous strikes were concentrated at specific points, the risk now spreads across multiple regions. Gulf states are in a difficult position. They do not want to become battlefields, yet geographically and strategically they sit in the middle. Tensions around major energy routes have increased, particularly in areas that serve as connectors for global oil distribution. Energy markets reacted again, prices surged, and economic uncertainty grew.
Inside Iran, the government faces internal pressure to demonstrate resolve. Nationalistic rhetoric has intensified. Domestic media emphasizes the narrative of resistance against external aggression. In the United States and Israel, governments are also under public and political scrutiny. Every military decision is debated, every casualty accounted for. This conflict is not only about foreign strategy, but also domestic political stability in each country. Militarily, Iran is leveraging its asymmetric advantages. Low-cost yet effective drone strikes are used to test and exhaust enemy defense systems. Precision missiles are aimed at symbolic and strategic targets to demonstrate capability. The United States and Israel rely on advanced technology to intercept threats and conduct limited counterstrikes designed to weaken Iran's military capacity without triggering total war. Yet every successful interception does not eliminate the risk of error that could enlarge the conflict. The conflict has also expanded into cyberspace. Digital infrastructure has become a potential target. Communication disruptions, attacks on financial systems, and technological sabotage are part of modern strategy. War is no longer confined to air and land, but also takes place in data networks. This broadens the definition of the battlefield and adds layers of complexity that are difficult to control. Diplomacy attempts to catch up with escalation, but always lags several steps behind. Calls for de-escalation come from various international actors. However, on the ground, military dynamics move faster than negotiations. Each side wants to maintain bargaining leverage before entering talks, weakening incentives for restraint.
The greatest risk in this phase is misinterpretation. In tense situations, one strike considered defensive by one side can be viewed as major provocation by the other. Military command chains must make rapid decisions with incomplete information. In such an environment, the probability of uncontrolled escalation rises sharply. Meanwhile, civilians begin to feel the impact. Economic uncertainty, security concerns, and social tension increase. Businesses delay investment. Airlines reconsider flight routes. Other countries update travel advisories. A regional conflict gradually transforms into a global issue. The United States and Israel face a strategic dilemma. maintain limited operations to gradually weaken Iran, or increase pressure to force rapid change. Iran faces the same dilemma: keep retaliation within controlled limits, or escalate intensity to demonstrate strength. Both options carry risk. Clearly, this second phase shows the conflict has entered a more serious level. It is no longer merely a military message, but a struggle for credibility and influence. Every action now carries chain consequences. The world watches as three major regional powers move along a thin line between deterrence and open war. The flames of conflict have spread. The question is no longer who started it, but who can control the endgame. And amid complex military calculations, one fact cannot be ignored. The longer escalation continues, the greater the likelihood that this conflict will reshape the Middle East's balance of power for years to come.
When missiles fall silent for a few hours, the world does not return to calm. Instead, uncertainty grows. The conflict between Iran, the United States, and Israel is no longer merely regional. It has become a test for the global system, economy, diplomacy, and balance of power. The first impact is felt in energy markets. The Middle East is not just a geopolitical region. It is the center of global energy supply. Threats to major distribution routes immediately trigger oil price spikes. Markets react not only to damage already done, but to potential disruption. Fear is a powerful economic factor. When risk rises, prices rise. Energy importing countries face inflationary pressure. Currencies weaken. Investors move funds to safe assets. A regional conflict begins to move the global economy. Its impact does not stop at oil. Political instability in a strategic region affects global supply chains, trade routes, and market confidence. A world already fragile from previous crises now faces additional uncertainty. Every military statement, every report of attack is instantly translated into rising and falling graphs on international exchanges. On the diplomatic side, pressure increases. Major powers cannot remain silent. Russia and China view this conflict through the lens of their strategic interests. The United States must consider its global reputation as a guarantor of Allied stability. The European Union worries about economic consequences and migration flows if the conflict expands. The United Nations calls for a ceasefire, but its effectiveness depends on the political will of the warring parties. This conflict highlights the reality of a multipolar world. No single power can easily impose peace. Every diplomatic step must account for networks of alliances and clashing interests. Iran has strategic partners. The United States and Israel have regional and global allies. All sides calculate carefully because geopolitical consequences are broad. Domestically, the conflict becomes a political issue in each country. Governments must convince the public that their actions are justified. If the conflict drags on without clear results, support may erode. History shows that modern war is not only about battlefields, but also public opinion. Legitimacy becomes a strategic resource as important as missiles and fighter jets. The central question now emerges: will this conflict escalate into major war or remain at a controlled level of escalation? The answer depends on rational calculation and restraint. All sides understand the cost of total war: infrastructure destruction, civilian casualties, humanitarian crisis, and potential involvement of more countries would create consequences far beyond initial objectives. However, there is another subtler risk: prolonged medium-intensity conflict, not large enough to be called world war, but long enough to drain resources and create chronic instability.
Such models have occurred in other regions: limited strikes, measured retaliation, harsh rhetoric, but no final resolution. Situations like this can last for years and shape a new generation of tension.
From a military perspective, each side is testing the limits of deterrence. The United States and Israel want to demonstrate they can suppress threats before they become existential. Iran wants to prove it cannot be pressured without consequence. If one side feels its reputation is endangered, it may take more aggressive steps. Here, the danger of miscalculation reappears. This conflict also reshapes security perceptions in the Middle East. Regional states must reconsider their defense strategies. Alliances may be strengthened, military cooperation expanded, and defense spending increased. In the long term, this could trigger a new arms race in a region long marked by instability. Yet amid tension, a narrow space for diplomacy remains. History shows that even the harshest conflicts eventually return to negotiation tables. The question is not whether diplomacy will occur, but when and under what conditions. If talks begin after both sides feel they have demonstrated strength, compromise may be more achievable. If talks begin under pressure, bargaining positions become rigid. The world now watches closely. Every military movement is analyzed, every political speech dissected. Global media frames narratives according to differing perspectives. Information becomes another weapon in this conflict. International perception can influence legitimacy and support for either side.
Ultimately, the conflict between Iran, the United States, and Israel is not only about strikes and retaliation. It reflects power competition in the 21st century. It concerns who sets the rules. It concerns how states balance security and influence. It concerns how far major powers are willing to go to defend their positions. The fire may be extinguished, yet embers of tension will likely remain. The Middle East has repeatedly been the center of global upheaval. Each generation witnesses a different form of conflict, but the roots of power rivalry remain similar. Now the world faces a choice again: unlimited escalation or controlled management through rational calculation. This conflict has not reached its end. It has only entered a decisive phase. How leaders make decisions in the coming weeks and months will determine whether this becomes the next major war or merely another long chapter in the history of Middle Eastern tension. What is certain is that its impact has already crossed borders. The world feels its tremors, and in an interconnected world, every spark in one region can become a global shockwave.